They can be in this at any moment. They just gotta up their mental game, let their talent speak.
Amazing placement. What a shot.
That was a Yahtzee overhead.
Aspect of mental toughness here that's just so different.
I like the body language of all four players.
Oh, look at that shot! Great hands from Kiro.
Hello and welcome to the 2023-24 APTA Tour presented by Volley. We are live from the Montclair Golf Club in Montclair, New Jersey, bringing you the Montclair Open with live streaming brought to you by the APTA membership, the APTA national sponsors, Volley and Fusion, and local sponsors. Our title sponsor today is Corient. Our silver sponsors, Montclair Rejuvenation Center, Sotheby's, specifically Ann McCarthy and Freddie Miranda, and Spiro Harrison and Nelson. Our bronze sponsor, New Jersey Women's Platform Tennis League, the New Jersey Flex League, and the New Jersey Platform Tennis League. Welcome, I am Anthony Casamano, along with the legendary Guy Moore, bringing you the men's semifinals.
Yeah, looking forward to a great match here, Anthony. New partnership with Martin and Jared. Had a big win yesterday in the quarter, 7-6 in the third, learning how to play with each other. Dan Hansen and Dan Wright. Dan Wright's at your club at Brookside. Dan Hansen's up, helps Jerry Albright's up in Stonington. Big lefty spin. Going to see a lot of action on the ball today. And the nice thing, too, is the weather's not going to be a factor. It's a beautiful day here. Really no sun, no wind. Good temperature, around 50 degrees. So I think we got a great matchup here.
Sounds good. And just to become familiar with our players, you will see on the near side of the court, in the deuce court, is Dan Hansen wearing the blue shirt and the backwards cap. His partner is Dan Wright wearing the blue shirt and forward-facing cap. On the far side of the court, on the deuce side at the moment at the net is Martin Bostrom, and on the ad side is Jared Palmer. They'll finish the warm-up here, and we will get going shortly. Our umpire for today is Mike Yachimski.
Yeah, it's nice to see Jared back. Played a few tournaments at the end of last season. It's nice to see him back at the beginning here.
So many of us watching may not know Dan Wright. I'd like to talk a little bit about him since he is my home club and potentially a little biased rooting for him this morning. Dan played tennis out of Bucknell. He played number 1 and number 2 singles. He played last year with Matt Puig, who was also a member of Brookside, who has moved to Colorado for the time being. So Dan and Dan played together, I think, just once last year, and they won the Shoreline Classic. So not a completely new partnership, but definitely still learning to play together. Dan has huge weapons. Obviously, we know Dan Hansen has that big lefty spin. Dan Wright loves his two-handed backhand. He can hit it off the deck. He can hit it off the screen. He is a very, very creative player. Fantastic hands at the net. Has a lot of weapons in his tool belt, and I'm sure we will see a lot of those today. And as you can see, the courts are just about completely dry. So, and we have an overcast, no sun at the moment. So perfect conditions here.
Yeah, Anthony, let's talk about Dan Wright's partner, too, in Dan Hansen. It was funny, we were just talking to him earlier before they went on. Played 15 tournaments last year, more than anybody else. He won 3 of them. He won Indianapolis with Dan Hirsch. He won the Shoreline Classic with his partner today, Dan Wright, and then Nashatuck up in Boston with Jerry Albright. So a lot of tournaments, a lot of experience. So it's going to be fun to watch these guys play, Jared and Martin.
I just heard Wright and Hansen will receive. And of course, we don't want to leave out our team of Bostrom and Palmer. Jared Palmer obviously is a 3-time APTA men's national champion. He won with a guy sitting to the left of me 3 years, right?
Yep.
2015, 16, and 17. And that's Drew Broderick, of course. And Martin Bostrom is the director of rackets at the Plainfield Country Club. Looks like we're just about to start going here.
You guys will start with a new ball and then we'll switch every 7.
Okay.
Hey, Guy, do you want to talk a little bit about how the teams got here today?
Sure would like to. So Dan Hansen and Dan Wright in the quarters beat Chris Humphreys and Ossis Koenig. Big #1 seed upset 7-6 in the third, or 6-4 in the third, sorry. And then Jared Palmer and Martin Bostrom beat Dennis and Friedrich 7-6 in the third. Really tight third set. These guys, in terms of playing matches and whatnot, I think a long match with Jared and Martin yesterday will help them today in terms of learning how to play with one another. And
Okay, I think I got it.
so they're getting ready to go.
Testing,
here.
testing.
No, you can.
Yeah, throw it in there.
We'll start with one of them, right?
Yeah, you got a new one. I'll start with a new one. We'll switch every 7.
Okay.
Guess you guys don't use it to switch this.
That's all right.
Take it easy.
All right, here we go. Just about to start. Martin to serve. Bostrom to serve.
And Martin has one of the best serves in the game in terms of spin. And he continues to serve overhanded as some of the players have started serving underhanded with the topspin serve. But let's see which side of the, once these guys get
15
going,
love.
let's see which side they're going to be playing here.
All.
Good drive by Dan Hansen there. No backswing.
I'm interested to see how Martin and Jared approach the start of this match, if they're going to test out Dan Wright, the youngest guy on the court, see how he fares in his first semifinal of a match of this caliber.
30-15.
Well, with this setup too, with Wright on the backhand side and Hansen on the deuce side, there's not a lot of middle there.
No.
So when these guys are playing the outside screens, you can see them kind of both hanging back on the service line area because they're going to be moving a little bit more. So they're just anticipating lobs there as they get the ball to the side backs. That's the ball to spin, though.
Right.
It's a good miss. I like that.
40-30.
Great lob right off the back line.
Notice, too, Anthony, Martin never had any intention of playing that out of there.
Bostrom Palmer, they lead the first set 1-0 to love.
And And that's what happens at this higher level is there is just no confusion on what ball you're going to let bounce and what ball you're going to hit out of there. You play that ball out of there, and it 100% rewards the opponents for hitting a good lob.
All right, Martin Bostrom is one of the most composed players out there. You'll never see him rush. He's very thoughtful in his approach. Sometimes it looks like he's in slow motion.
Good old Swede.
Dan Hansen to serve. He hits that forehand roller serve very, very well.
15 love.
Keeps it low.
Sure does.
And let's see what happens here. I know yesterday the report back
30 love.
The report back was Dan Hansen was hitting most of the overheads, letting Dan Wright cover the net. He's got a fantastic volley, and when he's hovering around that net with his soft hands, very effective. So we'll see if they play more of an I formation with Dan Wright.
40 love.
Looking to cut off volleys whenever he can. Already at 40 love.
There's that big lefty spin. One thing to note too is in all the years that Jared played with Drew, he always played the forehand side, so he does have some experience playing the backhand side, and he's going to be good anywhere, but still kind of a different look.
Right, it's not his 100% comfort zone, but he still plays it better than probably 95% of the population, or 98.
Yeah. Another good ball to spin.
40-15.
I like that pace of that drive from Martin there too.
And there's Dan Wright.
Game,
cutting
Hansen
off
Wright.
that volley.
First set is tied, 1-all. Love 15.
I was just about to say, I think last year or the year before, Jared Palmer had the highest first service percentage in the game, and I was just about to say it, and he faulted on the first one. We won't see a lot of faults from Jared.
And that includes him coming in and volleying as well, right?
Right.
Yeah, that
Right.
percentage.
Yes.
And that's where I always thought too, with Jared's past partners, that he's so tough when he's the one hanging on the net, the way he anticipates and the way he moves and cuts balls off. And not only that, and you won't hear us talk about this a lot, but he's probably got one of the best forehand volleys in the game, even though that's not what we teach. The better players are going to find a way to make you hit forehands.
Right.
Love 30.
And that seems to be the game plan for this morning. And Dan Wright all over the net there and forced an error.
So you got Jared on the forehand side now with the switch. They're switching back.
Yeah, I don't think they will be in a rush to switch sides, but
That's. See, I like that ball a lot from Martin.
15-30.
Especially the fact that he held it, let the play develop.
yep, he created indecision on the other side of the net.
And that's his best side either way, that backhand, for that reason.
All.
See if Jared puts a little more spin on his serve where it doesn't sit up as much here. That's sitting right up into Dan's forehand. And you can see from the beginning with that serve, it creates
30-40.
the volley that allows Hansen and Wright to control the point from the return on.
Deuce.
Found the crease.
Deuce point here. And I think a lot of the viewers already know this about Jared Palmer, but not only did he win the 3 with Drew, they were 3 in a row, which is extremely hard to do. But you're talking about the former #1 doubles player in the world, winning Wimbledon and the Australian Open.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And you know, something interesting too that I see a lot at the
Advantage, Bostrom Palmer.
at the club level. When Martin's hitting all those overheads, you're never seeing Jared look back at him. The only time he's going to do that if he thinks Jared's in trouble, because if Jared's in trouble, Martin's in trouble. But it keeps everybody calm on the court. You're not seeing a lot of movement out of them.
Right.
And you're also seeing Jared take a step to the right when the ball's even close to that gray area.
Deuce.
So that visually the partner knows what's happening, and we're not
Sure.
we're not doubling the work, right? You don't see them both stepping back for the same ball.
And you're not seeing a lot of ducking. Ducking takes a lot more effort than moving one step to your right. See, I like Jared on that side, Anthony.
Yeah.
I do. And another thing that he does that I don't see many players do with his forehand is he makes very slight grip adjustments, and you don't know if he's going to drive it or lob it.
Right. He holds it very long. He holds it very well. And he's got 3 different paces. He does that
Yeah.
little punching probe forehand.
So watch here, and that's why I like him over there. That's where he needs to be.
And I wouldn't
Advantage, Bostrom Palmer.
I wouldn't be surprised as this develops if they get down a little bit, or if things aren't moving as planned, if they switch sides more often.
Well, that forehand you just saw him hit is what he waits for over there.
Right.
Deuce.
And he's driving it from the service line because the ball's coming so far off the backside. Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing with that serve.
Serve's coming off way too
Advantage,
hard.
Hansen Wright.
Yeah,
He chose not to come in, which
Which-
was smart, but he left Martin a little vulnerable there.
that's a great move.
Game
Great
Hansen
move.
Wright. They lead the first set 2-1.
That felt like a big game. It was the longest game so far out of the first 3. And I think that's a great momentum boost for the Dans.
Well, and that's a perfect example where the game has changed in the last 2 or 3 years is transition. You know, you're talking about a team with good hands, but keeping the ball down, coming in, blitzing, willing to get in those quick hands exchanges. And remember, the definition of fast hands is just simply being ready.
Right. Fast hands is actually very slow hands.
Right, right.
Very little movement, knowing where the ball is going to be, positioning the paddle, and I teach my teams this until we're blue in the face. It's no motion on that ball. We're not swinging at it. We're not coming to get it. We just let it come right into the paddle. So soft hands.
You mean like the 2-handed backhand volley you've hit about 5 million times against me?
Yeah, maybe a few
Just
of
like,
those.
just like that. Good return.
Love 15.
I like Martin's return when he shortens the backswing and focuses on the RPMs on the ball. That heavy spin, just
Yeah.
like that. see that there's a ball in the middle, but it's pushed soft. But they are generally playing the outside screens.
Love 30. Foot fault. Love 40.
Foot fault called on Dan Wright.
Front foot, Dan.
Let's see if he.
Front foot, left foot.
Let's see if he can correct that.
Well, he's thinking about it.
Yeah, sometimes that creeps
Game,
in.
Bostrom Palmer. First set is tied 2-all.
And that was a quicker game than they would have liked, and the foot fault didn't help.
Anthony, what do you think about
15, love.
the more time you have to drive, the less you should drive? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I will say the less time do you have to think in paddle, the better off you are.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah, almost in all aspects of the game, and sometimes, and that creeps in everywhere.
15 all.
When you are so talented and so creative, and you have a million shots you can hit, and you think too much, that's when we tend to make mistakes. I like to break things down to very quick decisions with very few options.
You can see the drives that have been missed today are the ones that they had more time to think about it, which
Okay. 15-30.
is a little indecision. Good ball by Dan Hansen there. Nice cover by Dan Wright.
All.
That's a good example of a point there where they sped it up and they slowed it down. Martin hit 4 or 5 rollers, then just reset the whole point by pushing it soft and low to the middle.
30-40.
Mud cord winner, help there. Add out, 30-40.
How does Dan Wright do with generating pace off the deck on that forehand side?
I don't want to give away any secrets, but Dan much prefers his backhand. He plays very much like a lefty would play on that side of the court. If you'll notice, I don't think he's hit a forehand yet.
See, there's a good example. You see where Martin's just pushing that ball to that forehand side, not letting him take anything off the screen, making very predictable. You know, any good net scheme as a team is going to have a spot that you're going to when you're in trouble. And even if it's going to be a drive, the team knows it, and the person who's at the net stays in front of the ball and can easily cover it.
Right.
That's a good ball.
That's a good ball.
Again, that's that high ball Jared was.
Deuce.
So I would say that's the safer spot on the court is to Dan Wright's forehand. But if you give it to him and it sits up, he'll hit it. He'll put some underspin on it and try to create a low volley for the net team. And he'll kind of hit some probing, short forehands to try to get that ball to pop up, and he'll blitz behind it. And then you have Dan Hansen's forehand, which is just so consistent. It's going to come in 9 out of 10 times, if not 9.5.
Yeah, great ball.
Way to end it.
Advantage, Hansen, Wright.
And I like that net scheme from Hansen and Wright. Again, with the lefty hitting most of those overheads. Notice there, Martin Saw Wright lining up and didn't even think about coming in, which is the smart move.
Right.
That one. Tell you what, it's a great volley though.
Yes.
Deuce.
Got away with a little bit there.
You know, it's interesting too because I think Jared's hands are so good that sometimes he hits balls that he wants to be driven because it changes the tempo of the point. You remember Steve DeRose and John, they used to do the same thing, volleying short intentionally, which we would rarely ever teach, just to encourage the drive to speed up the point.
Right. They actually control the point with a volley.
Right.
They will bait you into hitting it to speed up the tempo and put the momentum and
Advantage, Bostrom Palmer.
put the tempo back on their side. Yes, and you'll have a handful of guys that like to play that way. Obviously, Johan wants you to drive at him. And I would absolutely say Jared does the same thing.
It's recognizing what teams like to play slow, what teams like to play fast. And that could change during the match too, but there's that big
Deuce.
backhand from Wright.
Right, he's waiting for that one. Great pace on it, didn't overhit that ball. Dropped it right at the feet.
Yep. You, please. Coming. You. You go.
I like putting in that fear of blitz as well. Obviously, you're not going to rile Bostrom and Palmer, but just having the idea that Dan Wright might creep in changes the angle of your overhead or the pace of it just a little bit as well.
Such a good roller, so deep.
Advantage, Bostrom Palmer.
You can hit that roller right at the feet, so it's difficult to let it go to the screen. It creates those type of mistakes.
Deuce.
And you can see Martin serve. That's what we were talking about with the
Advantage,
spin.
Bostrom Palmer.
That ball moves so much off the deck. Gives Dan Hansen just not quite as good of a look.
Right.
See, I like that ball right there. Just sitting on it.
They would be well advised not to repeat that shot for Dan Wright. That's what he's waiting for.
Yeah, and it's happening a lot off the backside, which is just
Advantage, Bostrom Palmer.
We don't see
at a higher level. It's just not a shot that you want to give to your opponent. You don't want them hitting offensive screens, which means the ball's coming forward instead of pushing them back against that back screen.
right forward and many instances down. Right, it comes from high to low.
Drops
offense.
vertical.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. And that's created by the geometry of.
Little hiccup from Dan Hansen
Team
there.
Bostrom Palmer, they lead the first set 3-2.
quick update on our other semifinal courts, just so everyone knows. We have Kiro and Medeiros playing Alexandra and O'Sullivan, and Delmonico and Gabbia versus Anika and Lalich on court 2. Anika and Lalich are tied with Delmonico and Gabbia 3-3, and Kiro and Medeiros are also tied with their opponents at 1-1. So the games are getting longer and longer. They're still feeling each other out. I would say Dan Wright has been very conservative in his play. I know when I play with him, he has a lot of different shots. He's a very aggressive player, so it's really good to see him playing, I think, well within himself, and I think we'll see more to come as it progresses and maybe as he gets more and more confidence. But the game plan so far looks pretty good, and it's coming down to just execution on both sides.
Little fault to start
Love
there.
15.
State the obvious here, Anthony, but important game.
Yeah, right, as we get to the middle of this set.
$15 all. $30-15.
Yeah, that's the one that I think I like everything about that return except just aim another 6-7 inches higher. Sometimes you got to ask yourself, when you're missing the drive in the middle of the net, what are you really trying to set up? Are you trying to hit through somebody, or are you looking to hit a lob? In other words, lob recovery. You know, driving the ball so your next lob becomes better. And then if you push somebody back and their hands are high, then you get the ball to really hit down on.
Yep.
Just wide. Yeah, and we talk about that a lot. The first
30-40.
The drive is not meant to win the point. The drive is to see what's going to happen on the next ball. If we can get a short volley that we can then close the net and hit it more aggressive, or if we can create an opportunity for us to hit a more offensive lob. And I think you're right. When we miss that ball, it's more thinking of a winner.
Great ball.
Deuce.
Hansen spins are starting to create some freebies. Great drive by Martin. That's the one. Named a little higher.
Advantage, Bostrom Palmer. Deuce.
And Dance is pushing that serve in now, but he's keeping it so low. Great volley by Martin. They're making those volleys look simple. They're not.
Advantage, Bostrom Palmer.
Tell you what, too, that's a great get.
Great get.
Wow. That ball went parallel
Game,
with the back
Bostrom
screen.
Palmer. They lead the first set 4-2.
Huge game and a good get.
And what, Jared looks pretty comfortable over there.
Oh, yeah.
Love 15.
Another thing about Martin and Jared is you don't see a lot of confusion at the net. He's guys have a pretty good game plan.
Yeah, how much do these guys have to talk about that? Having not played together, do you think there's a long conversation about the strategy, who's taking overhead, or do you think it just comes natural?
No, I think it's a
15
conversation for sure.
Yeah.
You can't look that comfortable and not have that conversation. In fact, I just don't understand why you wouldn't always have that conversation.
I agree.
Have the spots you want to hit. And like we said a minute ago, you have probably your 2 spots that you really want to go, and then a spot that's going to get you out of trouble if you're in trouble, because good teams lob well. Speaking of lobbing, Anthony, what do you quantify as a good lob? Loaded question, but good one.
It's funny you should ask, because it seems to be the focus of a lot of the conversations I've had recently with my teams. And I think when people are thinking they're trying to lob over the net team's head is when we get into trouble.
Agreed.
I think we spot our lobs tall and at that service line, which seems short in thought process, but typically we'll still hit it deeper than that, right? We'll err on the side of going a little bit longer, but we'll hit fewer out. So I think we just want our opponents to take a step back and have a target in mind and target that service line. What do you think?
It's a great ball right there by Dan Hansen. Wow.
15-30.
He let that one get deep on the hit it deep on the court.
It was tough. You know, it's in my mind, a good lob has evolved. I think when you first start playing the game, and even sometimes,
15-40.
even with experience, I think the mindset is to lob over somebody's head, which isn't a bad lob, but I think the lobs that create patterns and movement and cause confusion
30-40.
are what you're trying to make happen anyways, because as much as the net team has a scheme, the baseline team has a scheme, but when you're hitting lobs,
Game, Hansen, Wright.
when you're hitting lobs,
Bostrom Palmer lead the first set 4-3.
you're really creating 2 things. 1, who hits the overhead, and 2, where the next ball goes. So having teams and confusing job descriptions. In other words, you don't want the overhead person hitting all the overheads, and you don't want the volley person hitting all the volleys. So confusing that.
And so I think you're absolutely right. As the strategy evolves, you want to change the height and the pace, and if it's going to be a deck lob versus a screen lob, and throw off your opponents. When your opponents know exactly what's coming, they don't
Guys,
make
just
mistakes.
make sure your stuff is all tucked underneath. With the way you guys spin it, I'd hate for someone to run into all that junk. Here you go, Dan. New one.
7th game, new ball. And that was a big game. We talked through that game a little bit, but huge comeback for Hansen and Wright. Break right back again. Dan Wright serving on serve here at 3-4. Did Jared Palmer flinch during one of those
15.
exchanges? What a great point.
That's the definition of the new game.
Great hands all around.
I tell you what, too, and Martin did it. Dan Hansen was playing in the I formation on that serve, and one of the best strategies underutilized. Martin went right at Dan Hansen because he's popping up, and it's tough to keep your hands out in front of you when you pop up like that. Let's see what he does here. Yeah, same thing. See? And there it is. Exactly.
Love 40.
Great observation. Great observation. Almost like you scripted that one, Guy. And the last one he fought off just
Boston
barely.
Palmer.
That first one.
They lead the first set 5-3.
And that's exactly what you don't want to happen. Having a big comeback the game before, and then all of a sudden
A quick game.
a quick game. Yeah, that really crushes momentum. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about earlier. Just too much time to
15
think
love.
about it.
Right.
And the more time he has to think about it, the more you see Martin closing there anyways.
Yeah, as good as Dan's drive is, he doesn't hide it, right? You know it's coming.
I just,
15
you know,
all.
if someone pops the ball up short and high, obviously time and space favor you. But from the backcourt, the more time you have, I just think the more you should lob.
Yep.
One more lob's never going to hurt you. And not only that, if you lob some balls that you could drive, you are going to soften up the net team.
Right. That's a great overhead. That's that
15,
same one
30.
that works really well for Dan Hansen. He keeps it deep on the court with a little bit of spin. Very little reaction time for Martin on that ball.
Yeah, and the best spins is he's hitting are the ones he's letting out. It's incredible how low he lets the ball drop.
Fifteen 40.
15-40. Two chances to break back here.
I'll let this game play through and then give everyone an update on our other men's semi. It is interesting. We'll see how this game plays out, but how the momentum has shifted just within games here, Anthony.
You'll see at the higher levels or the mental fortitude to change momentum quickly can really decide the outcome of a match, right? You can have two loose shots, miss two balls. You need to regroup, come back. Paddle is a game of momentum. You could be down big or up big and change very quickly.
So notice this point here. Obviously, 30, 40 balls already, maybe more. But going back to what we were just saying, that's there. I was just about to say they're not driving balls that they shouldn't be driving, and he just did. And again, it's the ball he had too much time on. Great volley on his shoelaces. Just a quick update on another men's semi. Mick Erdoya, Scott Kaler playing against Wanarai and Graham McNerney. 2-all in the first set.
Game, Hansen, Wright.
Big comeback.
Bostrom Palmer lead the first set 5-4.
And back on serve again. So yeah, a lot of breaks, of course. It's not uncommon. But the momentum switches back and forth have been points at a time.
I almost feel in those pivotal games that the first point of that game is just so important. I think we talk about sometimes, you know, are there more important points than others? And the answer to that is, of course there is. They're all big, but there are more important points than others for sure. All right, let's see what happens here.
And in those instances, I always say you have to be able to play the score without playing the score, right? You can't change, you can't play tentative, you can't change your plan, you can't change your approach, but you might want to have just a tad bit more discipline.
So this is a big point here, serving at 4-5. Even though you're down in the set, wow. To feel like you're up in the game is important. That's a loose mistake by Hansen there.
Martin was creeping up on that shot, putting a little pressure on the first volley.
Love 30.
I wouldn't say that was a loose error from Hansen, but he makes that volley.
You know what else I think too is, think about Hansen and Wright, wherever they've won their games, at the net or on the baseline. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to stay back here a little bit and mix it up. Sun looks like it's becoming a little bit of a factor there.
Yeah, it looks directly behind Hansen and Wright.
Yep.
Kiro and Medeiros are leading Alexandra and O'Sullivan 4-1 in our ladies semifinal.
That's a great draw. That's what I'm saying. I think they're developing
15,
points
30.
better from the baseline right now. That's
15-40.
Do you think sometimes in the middle of it it's hard to see it? Because the 3 points that Jared and Martin have won this game are all volley mistakes. And not discounting the fact that the balls that Jared and Martin are driving are good, but there it is.
Game, Bostrom Palmer, they win the first set, 6-4.
So, adjustments.
Well, I think you're.
If you were coaching them right now, what would the adjustment be?
So I think to your point that you just mentioned, they're having more success in the backcourt. And we're going to take a break to our sponsor, Volley. And off to a commercial break.
At Corient, we believe wealth management begins and ends with you. Because the more personal the solution, the more powerful it is. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build and provide unlimited access to the collective and profound knowledge of experts across the country. It's time your wealth strategy was as sophisticated as you. It's time to join Corient.
Welcome back to the APTA Tour. We are at the Montclair Open at Montclair, New Jersey. We are on the men's semifinal match with Martin Bostrom and Jared Palmer taking the first set 6-4 over Dan Wright and Dan Hansen. As a little bit of a reintroduction, if you just joined us, on the far side of the court in the orange shirt, Dan Wright, his partner with the backwards cap, Dan Hansen. And now on the near side of the court, both in black, but on the deuce court, Jared Palmer, and in the ad court, Martin Bostrom. So
15-0. Sorry, 15-0.
15 all. Guy, as we left the first set, before we went to a commercial break, you asked what would the strategy change be here. I'm not sure we need a strategy change. I think the and I won't even say there was execution problems.
It's a
I
big
think,
shot.
yeah, great ball. I think in the moments,
15-30.
I think the Dans need to be really disciplined in their net play and not try to overplay that net. They can survive very well from the backcourt, and there's no reason for them to overplay the net.
15-40.
It'd be really important for them to come out, if not in the first game, in the first few games.
Great gets. Wow.
Great point.
Game, Hansen Wright, they lead the second set, 1-0. Bostrom Palmer won the first, 6-4.
And that's a huge game to start the second set. Make sure they're pushing forward, and they forgot about that first set already.
Yeah, those. If Dan gets that kill shot going, that's either better stop lobbing him or the ball's got to be deeper.
Love 15.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you were just talking about in terms of strategy, it's just about breaking the rhythm.
15
too.
all.
So if you stay back 1 point, that doesn't mean you're staying back the whole game. Just different looks. And understanding when to slow it down and speed it up.
Our other men's semifinal, Araya and McNerney are leading Yerdoya and Kaler 3-2.
They must be having some long games over there.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, is that the first set or the second set? But it must be the first set.
30-15.
Wow. I tell you what.
40-15.
And there again from the backcourt. Great height on that ball to Jared. That's what made it confusing. Shoulder level. And it was dropping.
Game, Hansen Wright, they lead the second set, 2-0.
So that's probably the third or fourth kill shot already from Dan Hansen this set.
Love 15.
Martin and Jared need to slow it down here.
Patty Hogan is going to join us for a quick update on the ladies semifinal matches.
15 all.
What's going on out there, Patty?
Well, on the one matchup with our defending national champs, Macy Elliott and Lynn Kiro, they're in a brawl out here. Alexandra and O'Sullivan really came up to play, and keeping a ton of balls in play and making this match super competitive. When if you just looked at the matchups going into this match, you wouldn't have thought they could keep it that close, but they're really playing a solid match.
30-15.
The new team on the other semifinals of Anika and Lalich, they're just phenomenal. They won the first set 6-3, as you guys reported, over Delmonico Gebbia, and I think they're up 4-3 in the second set.
40-15.
It's a beautiful day at Montclair. Big crowd gathering outside. a big improvement from yesterday's rain event out here. Everybody's enjoying the action and enjoying listening to you guys.
Thank you very much, Patty.
Patty, how's the sun out there starting to become a factor?
It's a factor over on that far side there.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we can see the shadows coming directly behind the players, so it must be a little bit difficult for the far side team.
Game Bostrom Palmer. Hansen Wright lead the second set, 2-1. Bostrom Palmer won the first, 6-4.
Got big crowds watching the women's semis. Kira Medeiros have their own fan club coming, trying to rival the groups from New Canaan last year with Anna Zabori's group coming down a lot, traveling all around the country, went to Chicago. You know, and that makes a really fun part of the game. Roxy Anika's got the following, so New Canaan strong, and Roxitica's club is trying to represent now. ProFlight is doing a phenomenal job with the streaming efforts this weekend. I looked at that screen yesterday, and it was awful outside with that heavy rain, but I tell you, the camera's angles and the clarity of the picture, you know, made it first rate. So kudos to Evan and all his efforts, and Drew Broderick's company. And Drew's doubling up this weekend, played a little paddle yesterday, and now he's got a comfortable easy chair today, helping with scorekeeping.
Yes, he's in the director's chair. He looks awfully comfortable, almost too comfortable.
Nice job, partner.
All right, we're back.
Love 15.
Hansen and Wright lead 2-1 over Bostrom and Palmer. They're up a break.
Dan Hansen disguises that overhead so well. You never know when that's the one Martin should wait for. I love that.
That's such a smooth shot.
Yeah, he doesn't even think about it. He just commits to it. There it is.
Love 30.
Notice too, so you are seeing them stay back a little bit, and Dan Wright was serving to the deuce side, but he had Hansen to the right of him, just because Dan does play the forehand side, and you saw Dan Wright just slide over to his side afterwards.
15-30.
I'll tell you what else I would say. If you can't hit a lob that's going to get behind Dan Hansen, you should just drive it at him, because having him continue to cut and kill balls at our medium pace, shoulder level, he's already hit more in these first few games than he did the whole first set.
15-40.
Right.
Let's see if they stay back here. Looks like they're going to.
5-4, yep.
And Guy, you talked a little bit about lobbing strategy earlier in the first set, and it's a perfect opportunity
30-40.
to potentially change that lob. The Drew Broderick probing short lob that doesn't get up as high, doesn't give you as much opportunity to get to the side of it. Just to change it up a little bit so he doesn't have enough as much time to sit and juice that overhead.
I tell you what, too, not a bad strategy. I know I've mentioned the sun 3 or 4 times, but directly in their eyes, in their face.
Directly in their eyes.
Them staying back and just lobbing. Not the sexiest strategy, but I'll tell you what, effective.
Martin misses that wide.
Deuce.
Ladies semifinal update. Anika and Lalich
Advantage, Hansen Wright.
defeated Delmonico and Gebbia to advance to the finals.
Yeah, they won that 6-3, 6-3, decisive win. And on the other men's semis, we have Juan Araya and Graham McNerney up 5-3 on Mick Odoria and Scott Kaler.
Game, Hansen Wright. They lead the second set 3-1. I got a new one for you, Martin. New ball.
Great start to the second set for Wright and Hansen.
Yeah, and it's what we talked about. They're just showing them a little bit more variety. Wow.
Love 15.
And there's that medium pace ball. That shot is worth 7 or 8 free points this set, which equates to 2 games.
Oh. 15 all.
Big move by Jared, just a
30-15.
clear look at how well he anticipates. One of the few guys out there that can hit offensive volleys without a bunch of spin, just because he's so fast.
Notice that's two balls that Martin bounced just because that sun must be right in his field of view.
40-15.
Oh, there.
40-30.
I do like that drive down the line there.
Yep.
Not only is it down the line, but making Martin hit a forehand volley, which he doesn't miss much. But
Game, Bostrom Palmer. They lead this. Oh, sorry. Hansen Wright lead the second set, 3-2. Bostrom Palmer won the first, 6-4.
See, that was a little bit of a I'm going to say momentum change game, but Dan Wright and Dan Hansen were a little tentative in that game. We saw some missed lobs.
yeah, it's just too fast of a game.
Too fast. Maybe they're starting to think about what's happening this set. They need to stretch the games out a little bit longer. Stay focused.
I tell you what, just getting some looks at this other women's semi over here with Kiro Medeiros and just some great paddle. A lot of transition, a lot of movement. Great ball, he held it and snapped it.
Love 15.
As aggressive as Dan Hansen is getting in there and putting pressure on, he exposed himself. He got caught in no man's land there. And I know they are trying to keep Jared and Martin a little bit off balance, but it's a little risky. Yeah.
Better
Love
lob,
30.
That's a good ball by Martin. I like that pace.
Great pace.
And more importantly, I love the spin.
And he's stretching Dan Wright over at the net. We know Dan Wright's going to take most of these volleys, so he's just stretching him out just enough to make that volley a lower percentage.
Too much time.
Game, Bostrom Palmer. Second set is tied 3-all.
So 2 quick games for Hansen and Wright, and not in their favor.
Yeah, I want Hansen to lob that down the line and give Wright a look at that backhand.
Absolutely.
Just got to create movement.
Right. At this point now, Dan needs to just dial it back a little bit, be a little bit more judicious in his approach. Set up the most consistent shot on the court, which is Dan Wright's backhand right now.
And I agree with Jared's going to serve like that,
15
which
low.
is comfortable with staying back even as good as his hands are. And Dan Hansen had no target and a mistake. Wow. That's great hands, Martin.
Martin stuffs that drive.
30 love.
And Dan Wright thought he might get Martin either catch him sleeping a little bit or catch him backing up, and neither was the case. Ball goes wide.
30-15.
Right, break it.
Again, Smart staying back. Wow. Get there, Martin. That's a tough shot.
30-all.
3-all, 30-all. Second set, Jared Palmer serving. Yeah, Dan Hansen, if you just, he
40-30.
looks like he's jumping out of his shoes a little bit. I think he's starting to feel a little bit pressured. And in these moments, you have to dial it back a little bit. Just slow it down.
And I even say on that return where Jared's staying back, not to return it hard because it just sits off the back wire and creates offense.
Half-pace drive through there.
Just a great example of why staying back doesn't hurt you at all. It's creating the matchup they want. Oh, that's such a big shot. I love that pace.
That's a great pace, right? So he
Deuce.
took a little bit off of that ball, put it in the 95% success zone, and make them make the volley.
Yeah, that's the return he needs to get. Exactly.
And that ball's going to die. There we go.
That's the adjustment.
Advantage, Hansen Wright.
Yeah, he needs to go with that pace. Smart adjustment by Dan Hansen.
Big point here. Let's see. Jared able to find the side screen against Dan Wright, which prevents the first drive.
That's good pace down the middle, where Dan Hansen really has to lob that. Wow, good point.
I was just
Deuce.
going to say they've slowed it down and making fewer offensive decisions. Great pace on that one, Dan.
Advantage, Hansen Wright.
Back to add out for a chance to go up 4-3. Oh, that's a great pace. Those last two shots.
Game,
great
Hansen
focus.
Wright. They lead the second set 4-3.
Biggest game of the set right there. Great concentration to come back in that game.
Yeah, it's an interesting match. I mean, but the teams, it's just coming down to a shot or two and execution a little bit. I think the strategy on both sides is good.
I was just thinking of that myself. I don't really see anything that needs to change specifically.
Yeah, I mean, and that's always the question, are we making technical or tactical mistakes? Because you can make technical mistakes and your tactics are fine.
Right.
I mean, simply put. They're staying back here again. I like that pace.
We'll see if the sun went away for a few minutes. We'll see if that changes the net team strategy with Jared Palmer missing
15
volley
love.
there early to start the game.
That
15
is a
love.
very good spot from right between them. Great roller from Martin too. Yeah.
Wow.
And from that roller on, they were in control of the
15-0.
point.
Absolutely. So we
Not only that too, Anthony, when someone's hitting the ball that hard at you, you have no choice but to back up.
right.
And when you back up, that means your next ball is probably going to be a lob.
15-30.
And yes, he created a opportunity to win that point.
Well, and you saw the spin to win it. Yep.
Yeah.
30-all.
Making volley at Martin.
Yeah.
That's two.
40-30.
Martin was salivating over that shot. I'm sure he wants it back. I'll make that 10 out of 10.
Game, Hansen Wright. They lead the second set 5-3.
That's a great game. Well played. Jared missed 2 volleys that game.
Love 15.
Martin starts off with a fault. With a chance to win the second set here. Bring it to 3.
Yeah, so that's just what, that feels good.
15-all.
I feel like they needed that shot at that moment.
For sure.
$30-15.
I still say right here, Wright and Hansen need to slow it down.
Yes, I was just
They
thinking
gotta
that
slow
myself.
it down.
This is when you have to fight that urge to finish this set off, right?
Yeah,
you have
they're-
to fight it. Great, and I think he snuck that down the line.
30-all.
Great shot, 30 all. Bostrom and
let.
Stray ball. Replay the point. But Bostrom and Palmer are not going to give you these last 2 points. So. Great drive.
30-40.
2 out of 3 winner drives for Hansen in this game.
Point.
And a fault for the set.
Game, Hansen Wright. They win the second set 6-3. Bostrom Palmer won the first 6-4.
Great moxie in that last game. And we will be right back in just a moment after these messages right here on the APTA YouTube channel presented by Pro Flight.
At Corient, we believe wealth management begins and ends with you. Because the more personal the solution, the more powerful it is. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And provide unlimited access to the collective and profound knowledge of experts across the country. It's time your wealth strategy was as sophisticated as you. It's time to join Corient.
That one you just picked up, we're still using. Yeah, we got 2 more games on that ball. Yeah, the right hand, yep. We got 2 more games on that one.
Okay, sorry. No.
Welcome back to the APTA Tour. We're at the Montclair Open here in Montclair, New Jersey. We are in the men's semifinal match between Dan Hansen and Dan Wright versus Jared Palmer and Martin Bostrom. Hansen and Wright, strong finish to the second set to bring this to a third set. Bostrom Palmer won the first set 6-4. Hansen and Wright 6-3.
Yeah, and in the other men's semis, you have we're in a tiebreaker at 6-all with Juan Araya, Graham McNerney playing Mick Ardoya and Scott Kaler. That has been a long set. We played 2 sets here, and they're still in their first set over there. Getting ready to start the third set here with Jared Palmer and Martin Bostrom playing against Dan Wright, Dan Hansen. And I'll tell you what, Anthony, early on in that set, Dan Hansen's overhead, that cut overhead really set the tempo. Just a bunch of free points. And I'll go back to what I said a minute ago. If they can't lob the ball deep with some height, they better drive it at Dan Hansen. Otherwise, he's going to continue to create with that overhead.
Right, we have to keep him off balance just a little bit. I will say Wright and Hansen played a great set. I think they had one tiny dip of concentration in the middle of that set where it looked like it could have gone either way, and they pulled it back together very quickly. Looks like they're sticking with their strategy. There's been no deviation from the strategy, which makes your goals clear, right? You just stay on the strategy, execute the shots, and you're not trying to figure out anything new out there. And I think that played in their favor. Very simple strategy. Let them hit the shots that they like to hit.
And I did like
15
them,
love,
especially on this side of the court, whether it was the sun or not, staying back some and disrupting the tempo. great ball. Different look here with Hansen on the ad side.
Yeah, and they look completely comfortable. I will say Dan Wright started his career pretty much playing the forehand side of the court. He's very good over there as well.
And there's Jared's offensive volley. No spin,
15-0.
just attacking
No spin.
it. And he,
Punches it deep. And
again,
it stays low.
not something we would teach a lot, but his angles are silliness. Ball gets behind you so quick.
15-30.
And update from the ladies semifinals. Macy and Medeiros won the first set, 7-5.
Hey, what? And that other men's semi and that women's semi.
30-all.
Great paddle, long points.
Yeah, Guy, we're very lucky. Not only do we get to watch the match we're commentating, but right in front of us is the Medeiros and Kiro match, and it's very exciting as well. 7-5 in that first set. Long set. That ball leaves the court. I think it was off of Dan Wright's paddle, though.
30-40.
That's the pace right there, Martin. That is
Game,
the pace.
Bostrom Palmer. They lead the third set, 1-love.
And just going back to that shot Martin just hit, not only is he controlling the pace, but for certain hitting the ball to a spot, which that I mean, we've all heard it, but that right hip combined with the RPMs on that ball make it extremely difficult.
He is absolutely, a lot of us when we drive, we're just going for an area. I think he went for that specific spot, like you said.
I would say this as well, if Martin sticks with that pace on that forehand, he's not going to make many mistakes off that side this set.
Love 15.
Great scramble by Dan Wright. If you're just joining us for this third set, on the far side of the court, Dan Wright wearing the orange and white shirt. His partner Dan Hansen with the backwards cap and black master shirt on the near side of the court. Martin Bostrom wearing the shorts, the blue shorts, and Jared Palmer in all black.
15-all.
Let's see if Jared stays back here. Looks like he's going to. I like that move.
$15-30.
Notice too on that previous play, Anthony, that Jared kind of took a couple steps in just to kind of, he had what he wanted. I agree with that ball, though.
Yeah,
30-all.
for sure. He's been hitting that ball all day, but
I would just put it right in his chest, though. Not that I've ever gone high on anybody.
never. especially us short guys. But to follow on your thought, I think I was thinking the same thing. Jared really had no intention of coming in on that ball. He took a fake first few steps
30-40.
just to make sure that they had a, commit to returning that ball, but he wasn't coming in.
Yeah, it makes Dan wonder what he's going to do.
Exactly.
That's a great volley.
Dan Wright all over the net on that one.
Game Hansen Wright. Third set is tied 1-all. New ball, fellas.
I tell you what though, he committed to that drive. I mean, and the ball was a laser. That's just sick hands.
Yeah, and Dan Wright was in the right place at the right time for sure. He was right on top of that net. Ball came right into his paddle. So.
And then you got to ask yourself if he keeps doing that, right? When you can't see where he is, the ball's got to go up.
15 love.
And I go back to what what we've said a couple times is so far I see the strategy or tactics on both sides being clean and solid. It's just execution.
Absolutely.
Good pace. Wow, great hands.
Well, that's exactly what Dan Hansen wanted. He
15
wanted
all.
to draw them in short and close on the net. He just didn't execute on that one.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. He got what he wanted.
Yep.
5 all.
And if you're his partner, you say keep at
Keep
it.
doing it, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
And
15-30.
Guy, do you think
30 all.
Do you think that Martin and Jared are playing more of the Dan's game right now? Are they playing into their strengths?
I do think there's some occasions where they're giving them what they want, but it's tough because
It's tough not to in all instances, right?
well, it's tough not to have a middle, and there's not much of a middle, especially if Dan Hansen shrinks it a little bit. But I think there's a big difference between playing to their strengths and the pace, right? So if you hit the ball soft to Dan Hansen's forehand and deep, you're not going to have to worry about the drive as much as it's sitting up.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, his screen drive has been really, really good.
Very good.
I think, in fact, both their screen drives are.
And you could argue that when that goes wide, you can argue that Dan Wright is
Game
seeing.
Bostrom Palmer. They lead the third set 2-1.
You could say that Dan Wright is seeing a few too many backhands. I'd probably give him less. I'd probably really hit everything right to his forehand. But it's not like these guys can't volley. And to your point earlier, they're not afraid to volley that ball. They're not afraid to change the pace and to make these guys execute. So.
Yeah, and where they're lobbing the ball is creating the opportunities as well. But again, you're talking about a very tight, close match. So I'm sure they wish some of their shots they could have back. We all do, but 2-1, Bostrom serving. Here we go.
Oh, you. Good.
That's a good pace.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Caught the line on that one. Died in the screen.
12-15.
Yeah, caught the corner there. Didn't come out like he thought it was going to.
Love 30.
Good read by Dan Hansen. Saw it coming, sat up. But I think the story in this match has just been momentum, Anthony. It's just gone back and forth so many times. No one's getting on those runs or 3 or 4 games.
Right.
15-30.
Yeah, I think I noticed that earlier in the second set, that all of the streaks are very short. We've only had a lapse of concentration for a few points at a time, and everyone's right back to it.
So that's what we were just talking about.
30 all.
It's more about the pace. That ball Martin hit to Dan Wright, that's the pace.
Right.
So hitting a spot is one thing, but the pace is another thing.
First set tiebreaker, men's semifinal. Mikurdoya wins 7-3.
Wow. And how long was that set?
Well, it's
over
midway through the third set in our match that started at the same time.
Yeah, an hour and a half almost, maybe more.
Great pace on that one. Didn't make it to the back screen.
30-40.
A chance to even it up here in the third set.
Game, Hansen Wright. Third set is tied 2-all.
There we go, 2-all. Just deep.
Love 15.
It's what I mean. You know, they just won a game, and just the momentum, just back and forth, back and forth. I don't like that one.
I don't like it
Love
either.
30.
So, right, we talk about streaks, fault from Dan Hansen, and then probably a shot he would like to have back. He rushed that one from deep in the green, coming into his body. See how quickly they can recover from those first 2 points.
I like the pace there again. Yep, same thing there. That's it. So go back to that Dan Hansen's forehand.
15,
We're talking
30.
about pace. Again, I know I keep saying it, but same spot, bad pace.
unleash that forehand.
Cracked it.
Coming.
Smart.
30 all.
Back to 30 all.
Why?
40-30.
From love 30 to 40-30. What a quick
Game, Hansen Wright. Score is 3-2. Third set,
That's
Hansen Wright.
exactly what we're talking about.
That's just all.
Dan had a little hiccup on the first 2 points of that match. Came right back and
Just a bunch of freebies.
a
though.
few freebies on the other side.
Try to give you guys an update on this other lady's semi here. Good long points. It's interesting too, you know, watching these two matches side by side, the discipline of the overheads with these ladies, just especially a lot of communication. Great match. Here we go.
So when you talk about disciplined overheads, one of the things I noticed in the last game, and we've already seen it here a few times in this first point, is Jared and Martin are getting into trouble when they hit their overheads too hard. Right? When that ball's coming off that back screen, either backside or straight off that back screen, it's creating way too many offensive opportunities for Hansen and Wright.
15
So
love.
they both have that off-paced, slower, deeper overhead that's got a little spin on it. They need to bring that back in. There's that hard serve off the backside.
15 all.
Right into.
Well, that's the other thing too. When you're going to go into the side back, it's got to be soft. If it's hard and you're hitting that back panel, it turns into an offensive screen for sure.
15-30.
And those are the tough ones too, because you don't know if it's going to be a lob or a drive, so you're stuck in the middle. Still a lot of hard balls here. It's a great move.
30 all.
Good serve, good movement. Ball went away from him.
40-30.
I like that pace though, a lot. go.
Game, Bostrom Palmer. Third set is tied, 3-all.
4 or 5 really good overheads at that point there, just pushing him soft down the middle.
Oh, I got 3-all. 3-all. Yeah, 3-all.
It is 3-all, Anthony.
It is 3-all.
See if they stay with the pace that we were just talking about. That is a big-time move by Dan
Great
Hansen.
blitz.
15-love.
He's always looking for the opportunity to close on that net. It puts a lot of pressure.
It's interesting, too. It's when Wright and Hansen are lobbing the ball and they see Martin or Jared's hands go high. Happens a little bit more with Jared than Martin. They're just sitting on the drive.
We saw the sun just peeked out a little bit, and that kept Jared almost had to let that overhead go, and now he's playing from the baseline. That sun must be right in his eyes.
It's a great forehand volley by Jared.
Yeah, he's fighting it off from there right now.
There you go. Slow it down.
Right.
Same.
Yeah,
Good.
that's that one, right? Deep, slow.
Yep.
It's almost not going to make it to the back screen.
Right. Yeah, stay at that pace and let Wright and Hansen press a little. That's exactly what he wanted.
15-all.
That's
30-15.
That's where Dan Hansen's most dangerous.
Yeah, that ball at that height is tough. I don't think they could have done anything different there. They were scrambling, but
Great hands.
you know, at the end of the day, too,
40-15.
Anthony, I mean, that's just a great shot. He's gonna get some. It's just the way it is. I don't know about you, but with the sun as bad as it is, I would have no interest in being at the net.
Yeah, I think
Game, Hansen Wright. They lead the third set, 4-3.
the challenge is it right now. It just keeps peaking. The cloud coverage is spotty, so it keeps peaking out and going back.
Yeah, which kind of destroys rhythm, but you gotta play the conditions. So when the sun's not out, maybe a different strategy than when it is. It's dead in their eyes. All right, so a change over here. Martin Bostrom and Jared Palmer down 4-3, third set. Other semifinal. Nick Adoya, Scott Kaler won the first set 7-6 from Wanaraya. And Graham McNerney. Get another update shortly on that for everybody. All right, let's see what Dan and Dan Wright do here. Hansen and Wright. That's the pace I like. pace I don't like.
That's too many of those. Too
Low
many.
15.
Too many.
Yeah, I like that spot right there.
All.
Caught Dan Wright cheating just a little bit there. He was creeping into the court.
I couldn't see that.
Questionable call on the sideline. Martin shaking his
Had
head.
it wide.
They had it. Chair umpire Mike Uchimsky
I was waiting
agrees.
for you to. I didn't hear you guys question me, so.
He agrees.
Yeah.
I was questioning. I mean, isn't that the answer that it is? If you're questioning the high top? I mean, you didn't really call it.
I had it wide, guys, just so, you know. It's totally up to you guys.
Gentlemen will replay the point.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, especially at this point in the match.
Wow, it's just pure class.
That is.
Come on, man.
And then we get a
30-15.
neck.
You know what's interesting though? It's not interesting. It's just it's been this way, both on the women's and men's side for years. I mean, the sportsmanship is just always first class.
You gotta go.
Better pace. Stick with it. Yeah, that ball has got to go to the side
It's
screen.
got to go to the side screen, or
30 all.
it's got to.
It's got to be in the middle.
Or it's got to be in the
screen.
middle.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge right now. They fed them fed Dan Wright way too many
40,
backhands.
30.
He's not going to miss that ball.
The thing about it too is if you dump that, try to jam that ball into the side screen and don't get it there, your partner is stuck covering the line, so you're playing most of the court by yourself. 85, 90% of it by yourself.
That's the safe spot right there.
Don't change your mind. Sorry,
Yep.
Jared.
All right.
Deuce.
So we're seeing a lot of indecision and maybe not the best choices from
Well,
Bostrom and Palmer, and we see a fault.
I'm gonna throw
Advantage,
this out
Hansen
there
right.
because we've been saying it the whole match that we like the strategy, but that's the play right there.
Yes, and we have a.
But there's no, I think buying into it completely has got to happen.
And that's what's odd, that they haven't bought into it completely. But as you see, those last 5 overheads from Bostrom have been soft right in and there it is again, right?
That's
so
good.
they know, they talked about that spot. They just from time to time forget about it, I guess.
And we called that spot first 2 games of the match.
Sure.
There you go.
And
That's
you
a
get the
good point.
off-pace ball into the corner, right?
Deuce.
Yeah, so
That's it. That point needs to be the template of the way they play the rest of this match.
they just fought off a point to bring it to 5-3. So we're back to deuce for a
Smart.
deuce here. And this is where you'll see decision making. Becomes super important, and Jared missed that. He missed the opportunity. He gave it to Dan Wright.
Advantage,
Yep.
Hansen right.
Which created that shot, created that point.
Sure did. And that's the thing you got to recognize too is where did the scramble actually start? I mean, the point ended 5 balls later, but where did it start?
Exactly. It started with the ball to Dan Wright's backhand.
Nice.
Game Hansen Wright. They lead the third set 5-3.
And in this particular matchup, it's becoming more and more obvious that the hard ball into the screen is creating all the unnecessary transition.
And what does that mean to Hansen and Wright? It means if they're patient back there, they're going to get the shot that they can hit. And when you know you're going to potentially get that shot, you own the points much better.
I say this too. 2 things. 1, the sun's horrible.
Yeah.
2, they're right now from the rhythm of this match. They're winning all the points from the baseline.
They're winning all the points from the baseline.
I'd be surprised if Dan comes in here. I don't know why. That's what I mean. Why? Why? You've won the last how many points from the baseline?
They found their way back to the baseline. So, and there's the hard ball. Not quite hard enough, but still, let's stay.
That's the pace right there. Just stay at it. There you go.
all.
Great shot.
Great poach by Dan Wright at the right time.
30-15.
2 points away from the match.
Yeah, smart move by Dan. I like it.
We have
40-15.
double match point for Hansen and Wright. 40-15. That's the match.
Game, set, match.
Great discipline.
Hansen Wright, 4-6, 6-3, 6-3.
As that third set progressed, Martin and Jared couldn't find the right pace on those overheads, and the Dans stayed very disciplined and looked for their offense when they could get it, and they stopped hitting balls that were outside of their comfort zone.
Well, and I do say this. We talked about it after the first set. What adjustments would they made? They started mixing in, staying back, and it made a big difference. It really did.
Well, that's a fantastic win for Wright and Hansen, and they make it to the men's finals. And that is a wrap for men's semifinals. Let's go to a commercial, and we will be back in a few minutes for the next live streaming.
This is what it looks like after all my matches. Just like a, it looks like a dumpster.
At Corient, we believe wealth management begins and ends with you. Because the more personal the solution, the more powerful it is. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And provide unlimited access to the collective and profound knowledge of experts across the country. It's time your wealth strategy was as sophisticated as you. It's time to join Corient.